Hello there, you lovely people. I hope you're safe and I hope that you're well. I have a different type of video this week. I'm joined by an amazing lady called Catherine Stratta, and together it's you, me, and a cup of tea. And we are talking about a mental ill health condition called bipolar. Catherine has 40 years worth of experience of having bipolar herself, and after being a clinical researcher for so many years, she has this experience and this knowledge in wanting to educate other people. And I thought, who better to help us understand bipolar than actually Catherine herself? In this week's video, what we'd like to do is we would like to educate you young people in what the mental illness of bipolar is, and with Catherine's experience of how you as a young person can better support any adult or adult friend that's in your life that may have bipolar. So let's get on with this week's video. Okay, so my first question for you, please, Catherine, is can you please explain to us what is bipolar?
Yes, okay, that's a very good question because a lot of people really don't understand. It's basically what's called a mood disorder. And that means that when you have bipolar disorder, you either have very high moods, which are known as mania, or very low moods, which are depression. And people swing in between those two states. Sometimes you have a kind of normal period in the middle, other times you don't. And there are two types that you probably ought to understand, because if you have a parent with these different types, then they need to be dealt with a little bit differently. So the first one is bipolar 1, and that's where you have like a full-blown mania. And when you have full-blown mania, your parent will be talking very quickly, they'll be going on about things, they might be rushing about, they won't be sleeping, and they will often go out and do things that they never normally do, maybe spend a lot of money and things like this. And this is important because when they're in this state, they actually don't know what they're doing. It's called like a psychosis. So you or someone in the family needs to be able to get them to a doctor to help them, because they will need medication to become down to like a normal level. And the other type, bipolar 2, you have high moods, but it's called hypermania. And when you have hypermania, you're very, very lucid, you're doing things quickly, you're explaining things to people, you feel like you're on top of the world, but you're aware of what you're doing. So you can't do so much damage. And that's the important distinction that it is for you to make, because when you're in that state, it's not so dangerous as the full-blown mania. So that's bipolar 2. With both types, you have a depressive phase as well. And that's when you very often stop eating, you may lose weight, you may not be able to do anything because your energy levels just drop. And so very often your parent might be in bed and not able to get up, and they stop doing things like showering and bathing. And then again, you would need to try to get help at that stage for them, because they can't manage themselves. And these moods, it's difficult to explain, but they kind of overtake you, so that it just happens and you feel either very happy or you feel very sad. And you don't know often why that's happened. It can just happen because you maybe have had less sleep or something like that. Even something as little as getting a different amount of sleep can kick an episode off. So that's the basic explanation of what happens with the illness. There's also a rapid cycling one, where you may get days where you have depression and other days where you have mania. And then again, as I say, you need to be watchful for your parent, because they will need help because they're not quite sure what's going on themselves. So as a teenager, you can do such a lot to help your parent. You really can. And I think it's important to understand that they don't do this on purpose. This is just happening kind of to them. It's like when, as a teenager, you get in those bad moods and you kind of not sure where it's coming from. It's a bit like that, but it's like much more exaggerated with bipolar disorder.
So in what way, teenagers watching this, in what way may it affect their family life with a parent, a carer, or a family member that has bipolar?
So they may be quite difficult to live with. When they're in the high stage, the mania or the hypermania, they may get very irritable. They may also have kind of bursts of anger for no reason that you can see. And it's important that you understand that they're not angry at you. It's just that's part of the illness, part of how it comes out. And also, they may not be able to take care of you as much as they would when they were well, or your brothers and sisters. So they may need support from the family or from the mental health community team that they should have a named helper from. So really, it's important to just kind of be there for them, because as you realize, this kind of disease happens to them rather than them actually actively wanting it to, because no one would want to be like this. Believe me, no one would want to have these kind of big mood changes, because it really can be very disruptive to your life.
So I'm trying to take this all in because it's just so fascinating and it's so helpful to really understand. And I think because you're so honest and upfront with having that lived experience, it just makes it easier, certainly for me, to understand. But Catherine, what is it that causes bipolar? Can bipolar ever be fixed?
It's difficult. I mean, people can recover and people can live full lives, but they usually would need some kind of medication. And also there's lifestyle things, different things that they can do, like things such as sleep, what they eat, the way they really kind of live their lives. Not doing odd hours working, like shift working, is really bad for bipolar people because it really upsets their rhythms, their biological rhythms. And in one of the problems with bipolar is they think that it's caused by a problem with the circadian rhythm, which is the one that tells us when we're awake and asleep. And they think in bipolar that rhythm doesn't work properly. So that whenever there's a small change, and that can even be when the daylight saving change happens, when you get more or less sleep, that can actually precipitate an episode. I mean, largely it is an inherited disease, which means that it will pass on through the generations. But it's not a simple one. It's not like inheriting blue eyes or dark hair or anything. It's actually thought that it affects a lot of genes, so that there are many different genes needed to actually bring that out in someone. And it may be there, and then some things like a stressor, when maybe there's a stressful event like you split up with your partner, or even positive things like getting married, can actually bring on episodes, because it's a stress, it's a change of situation. And with bipolar, we have difficulty in dealing with change. And as you know, change is part of life. So we have to be a little bit watchful around those things. Even as I say, the positive things can make a difference. But there are also other theories with the biology. There's a theory about the synapses in between the nerve cells where the neurotransmitters go across, that they are different in people with bipolar disorder. So there's a whole lot of things that people are looking into at the moment as to why this condition is caused in some people and not in other people. And also, there may be a difference in between with your own beliefs and your personality, and whether you believe you can control things or things can control you. And also the sort of childhood you had. Some people have a very difficult childhood, and that can be something that may then go on to develop bipolar disorder.
So, Catherine, I know from the experience of working with young people myself that I know that when it comes to their parents, carers, or family members that may have a mental illness, they often worry about, could this happen to me? So what would be your answer, with those that have bipolar, and a young person thinking, will this happen to me? What if I get it?
Well, yeah, that's a very good question. And there is a chance that you may get it, but it's a 10% chance if your parent has it. And 10% is not obviously a huge chance. But the positive things about it is that if you do get it, you should be able to get help much more quickly. Because in general, there is a very long delay in diagnosis for adults when people get bipolar. But if you as a teenager, your maybe mother or father has it, and then you start getting some of these symptoms, it does mean that you can get help earlier. And there are studies to show that if you get help earlier and you can be given the right medication, then you can live a full normal life. by just making sure you take your medication and doing some regulatory things with your life, making sure you be careful about your sleep, which we've already touched on, and that you get plenty of rest, and that you watch any stressful circumstances, and that you have a good support system, which is part of the reason we're talking about this, because as you have parents, then you are part of their support system.
Catherine, my last one is a kind of just putting it all together. But what would be your top tips to kind of offer that support to a teenager or a young person who is living with somebody who has bipolar within the household or kind of in their circle?
Yeah, that's again a very good question. Basically, the most important thing you can do is be supportive to them. As I say, they have these moods and they don't have control over them. So it's really kind of non-judgmental, listening to them, being there for them, and helping them in any way that you can. So basically, one of the most important things is that they do take their medication. And the thing with bipolar disorder is that in the parts in between, when some people have like phases when they're not either very high or very low, they can think, oh, I'm much better now, and stop taking the medication. But actually, very often, if they do stop taking the medication, then that can precipitate an episode. So the best thing you can do is really just try and gently make sure that they are taking their medication. And if they aren't, then if you have a contact on their mental health team, they should have a crisis plan that should give you the person that you need to contact, or your father or mother, the other parent might need to contact if you're worried that they might be coming off their medication. Also, you need to just kind of be gently watchful so that you see any maybe changes that they don't pick up, because very often it's the people around you that pick the changes up in your mood before you do, because you're kind of being, in yourself. It's difficult to have a kind of really good look at what's happening to you. But very often a child or another parent can spot some signs that they may think that their loved one is either going into a manic or into a depressive episode. And then again, to contact the relevant people, because sometimes it may be just a very small change in the medication that they're taking that can stop them going either one way or the other. So, and also, as I've said, plenty of sleep. If they can make sure that they go to bed at the same time and get up at the same time, that's quite important. For a long time, I used to like having lie-ins, but it actually played havoc with my moods. So now I have to get up at 7 o'clock every morning. And if I have changes in that, I can feel that there is an alteration in my mood. So that's the most important thing. It's actually the getting up time with bipolar, because we've talked about those waking and sleeping rhythms that are very important with this situation. So another thing is that it is quite common for people with bipolar to actually drink because they want the pain to go away. They want to make sure they feel better. But alcohol is actually really bad. So another thing, if you do find that your parent is drinking more, perhaps, then another thing that might be to contact the mental health team, because that drinking often pushes them over into an episode. So, and the same applies also with recreational drugs, which again are quite bad because they mess with the brain. And we've already said that there are some, they think there are some abnormalities in the way the brain works. And then these drugs can kind of get in and then interfere with that, which can make things worse. So really, you need to make sure that you have a contact, or your other parent or another carer has a contact with their crisis plan, the people who are on that, so that they can really have that support from you. And I can tell you from my own experience, having someone around you who is supportive, but gently so they're just gently watching you and not kind of doing it in a way that is makes you kind of nervous or whatever, but just to be gently, lovingly watching you and just making sure that you're okay. I mean, anyone with this condition would be so thankful to have someone like that.
Catherine, that gently watching, I just think that's such a beautiful way of just showing somebody that you care, but like you say, without that kind of aggressive tone, but just that loving, gently watching. I love that. Catherine, thank you so much for your time. If there was any professionals or young people that were watching this, or parents and carers that were just inspired by your work, where could they find out more about what you do?
Find me on LinkedIn, Catherine Stratta. It's basically the only profile with my name. So you can find there what I do, and you can get in contact with me. And I do look after people with bipolar. I also look after their caring supporters and also workers, so that if managers have people with bipolar disorder in the workplace, there are things that can be done to help that person be able to make a full contribution to the organisation. Because really, bipolar shouldn't be something that you don't talk about. It should be something that's out in the open, because we can do so much these days to help people.
Definitely. Catherine, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy lady, but thank you for your time, and thank you for helping, those that are on the Flourish YouTube channel, just improve our education as well. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Jo. It's been a pleasure.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.